Greetings and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be showcasing a standard build for the Keiron. I feel a bit, I don't know, unsure about whether standard is the right word to use because there's not, a pro scene or anything developed, but this is relatively safe and pretty easy to understand. I think it's fairly, I don't know, normal. Again, seeing as there's no kind of thing developed, it's proper standard. It's a bit weird saying, but I'll get into it.
If you won't win, don't relax.
So in this, I'm just going against an elite AI Terran. Doesn't matter anything much. It's mostly for just to kind of demonstrate some of the harass, more or less, that you can do. Although in this game I didn't focus very much on harass, I was mostly focusing on the build order. So first thing you want to do, you don't have to rally your first worker anywhere. You want to either rally the second worker down or send a different worker down just before the second worker finishes, depending on how long it takes for the worker to get from here down over here. Sometimes on some maps you might be able to even just simply build it from the high ground, because the Keiron converters have a little range with their building, which is pretty nice. So once you reach about 250 minerals, that's when you want to send your worker down here as well to make your second base. And anywhere between the time where you start your when you start your edifice and when you start your natural is when you want to be sending out the converter out to scout. Considering the the changes to the current edifices are now 25 minerals less, so that's why you want to send that worker a little bit earlier than last time during this week, although it shouldn't matter too much. Yeah. This was just me resuming from a replay. I wanted to make things perfect. Not too long. Sorry, I missed this. But about at about 140-ish, when you have the money, you also want to start up 2 foundries for your first tech building. In this, I went for a foundry tech opening, and also once your edifice is done, once you have the money to continuously producing, because that's very important. You always want to continuously produce. And the standard, quote-unquote standard build, there's nothing that you really need to be cutting workers for. There's not really build orders that are so tight that requires you to do that anyways. So once you have the money, then you also want to get your sanctum. You want to start your sanctum before you start any gases as well. Now once you have the money, once you have the gas, which is 75, different to Protoss, not all the tech buildings are 100 or 150 gas. This one's only 75. That's when you want to start it. Now, again, after the foundry, you then also want to start releasing and then modified waves. Like the Keiron, they don't have quite as much, like, a lot of their tech isn't quite as gas intensive in, say, Protoss tech, compared to Protoss. However, they do generally have a few more things to get. So modified gate being fairly important upgrade, pretty core to the Keiron, as they have a lot of the little kind of zealoty dudes. Now, you also, after you've done all that, you probably want to be starting up a second edifice into a citadel. However, you could get the citadel first, slightly quicker. However, in this game I did make the edifice first. Okay, now once this is done, and once this is also done, then you want to be starting up exalted shields. You could start up latent charge if you want to as well. However, I prefer exalted shields because pariahs tend to be stronger than vaults. Although in the very early game, I would recommend getting a couple vaults right at the start, just because they do have that range. They're a little bit more something. They have a slightly better survivability. Now, as far as unit production goes, this really depends a lot on what you think your opponent is doing. If you think they're going to be attacking very much, if you think they're going to be very aggressive, or you think they're going to sit back. A lot of these things, you can delay them a little bit to get in favor of more unit production, especially now after some of the more recent balance changes. There is now a penalty for not producing units, which is that the unit production speed is a lot slower. It goes from the normal speed, which for the edifices 22 seconds, to 33% slower to 66% slower. If you have 2 charges, it's 66% slower. If you only have 1 charge in it, then it's 33% slower. The same goes for all the other structures. However, obviously, not all the buildings hold up to 3 charges, so it would only go to 33%, or in some cases they only hold 1, so we won't have to worry about it. Now, when the Foundry finished its unit production, I did send some Umbra across the map to harass. You don't have to do that, although I definitely recommend doing it, especially if perhaps you're playing Zerg against a Zerg opponent rather. It can be fairly core, just in general very good to harass your opponents. That's why I did that. They can also can also serve as a similar function to the Mortal. However, they're slightly faster, they do a little bit less damage. Not quite as bulky, so in that kind of sense they're a bit more similar to a Stalker, Stalker rolls around like a handful. But once you've started your 3rd base, you also want to be getting 2 reliquaries. Now you want to be getting 2, you don't ever really want to be getting 1. I don't think, although you could stick with 1, but I always recommend getting 2 for the shields, especially considering that this is the only upgrading structure. With most races, you do have to consider that there's always going to be 2. There's like genuine more advanced upgrade structure, like for example Keiron, there's the engineering bay and the armory. But with Keiron, there's only a single one, so you might only, you might think, oh, I'll only get 1 just for the attack upgrades, but you also kind of have to, you don't have to, but I recommend, by making up for the deficit, getting another one. And you see here, with me going triple reliquary, so I can get the attack upgrades for the biological weapons and the mechanical weapons. Because Keiron, in terms of upgrades, they don't function as similarly to Protoss, they function more similar to Terran. You have your tanks, your Umbra, with their mechanical weapons, and then all your marines, your vault riders, your pariahs, weapons, they benefit a lot. They shoot very fast, so they also benefit a lot from those upgrades. The pariah more so because they have a higher weapon speed, and especially because the vaults, the latent charge. It's spell damage, so it's not increased by upgrades. So often, you could probably come up with some pretty strong timings based off of that, because it would scale down a little bit more as the game progresses, because the difference probably isn't there as much. If you understand what I'm saying, it's. At this stage of the game is over for my opponent, but when you get the money, And once you've started your third, you probably want to also be continuously producing out of these edifices. Once you've gotten 4 of them, at the very latest, once you have 4 edifices, you want to be continuously producing vaults and pariahs. At that stage, there's not really any reason to not do that, because your opponent's probably not gonna. I can't think of a type of game that would simply just continue without ever attacking, without you and your opponent ever attacking one another. So holding that longer than, like, holding production for longer than that, I think is too risky and simply just not worth it, to be honest, because you also want to be building up your own army to eventually attack them. So yeah. Also, once modified gate has finished up, and when money allows, get latent charge, get convergence, get whatever you want. You can go for an army like I have here, which is more of a meridian and edifice kind of units comp, with a little bit of Umbra Immortals and Subjector Stalkers mixed in. However, you could also go for, instead of focusing very much on this, on the Elysium, only getting the Elysium for the upgrades, to unlock upgrades, you could then go for definitely a more kind of robotic unit, mechanical unit, army composition, tech into those myriads that are quite strong, potentially those inducers as well, they're pretty good, and going later on also even the Titan, maybe an Aegis and all that. In this game I didn't showcase any air. That would probably be quite a different build order to this one. With this build order, you could pretty easily switch between a more mechanical units composition and a more biological edifice heavy composition. However, air would be quite different because they don't use the Elysium, they don't use the edifice, because in order to use the edifice you really need to get an Elysium for those upgrades, those exalted shields and latent charge upgrades, as well as the extra level 2 upgrades in here. As you can see, in order to get level 2 upgrades, this includes for armor. I'm not entirely sure if it includes for shields. I think it does. To get level 2 on those upgrades, you need an Elysium. And Elysium's quite gas heavy. It's 150. It's the most gas heavy out of all of the tech structures after the Sanctum. So the conduit no longer costs gas, and it's only edifice. It's unlocked by the edifice. But as you can see here, there's 150, 75, and 100. This one, actually, my bad. I take that back. I forgot they allowed the Empyrean to be unlocked by the what do you call this? The Sanctum now. So that's also 150 gas. But you see my point now. You don't want to be getting an Elysium. Air units are quite gas heavy. Every single air unit costs gas. So you generally, like, it's a lot more similar to the Void Ray style in that sense. You don't really want to be wasting so much gas on Elysium and on this very early on. You can get it maybe once you have a 3rd base or 4th base fully saturated, but yeah, for the opener, which is what build orders are all about. Build orders don't go in depth past an opening really. For your opener, you won't be investing into any of that, so it'd be very different build order. Anyways, that'll be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you perhaps learned something. Maybe go play the mod yourself. I think it's very fun. Keiron pieces are my favorite. My personal favorite. I think I'll leave a link to the Discord in the description, and I'll see you all later. See you.